Check 1, 2.
Good evening, all. It is now 6:35. For a 6:30 start time, we're pretty close. I'm calling this meeting to order. We'll start with a roll call for the board.
Okay, there we go. Alex Collazo. Caleb Gunter.
Here.
Charlie Lykoff. Here. Mary Peliquin.
Here.
Zilla Tarko.
Here.
Idan Eckstein. Joy Oglesby. Here. Rochelle Coetzee. Barbara McGill. Here. Marta Rexo.
Here.
Samantha Sisler. Here. Solomon Schoonover. Here. And Stacy Ritter. You do have Stacy Ritter? Okay, you do have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We'll start the meeting with a Pledge of Allegiance. Before we move to the approval of minutes, I wanted to first off congratulate the Florida Panthers. And then also welcome two of our new board members, Stacy Ritter and Solomon Schoonover. Welcome. That being said, we'll move to the approval of the minutes. Did everybody get a copy of the minutes in their emails? Yes. Have a chance to review them? Yes. Any errors, omissions, or corrections?
None noted.
None heard. All favor for approval? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
First and second, please, or no?
Oh.
I make a motion.
Lykoff. McGill, thank you.
Now can I have a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None heard. First item on the agenda then is Carl Williams, a department update. Director Williams.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Amy Jean Baptiste, Deputy Director of Parks and Recreation. So I'll start with some upcoming events for department updates. As Caleb mentioned, the Panthers, we are facilitating a Panthers parade on this Sunday along A1A with a ceremony on the beach. So it will start at 11 a.m. Details are soon to come via social media. Our next upcoming event on the beach again is 4th of July Spectacular. Headlining this event is In Vogue, and this event starts at noon, and fireworks are starting at 8:45 along the beach. Next event is Starlight Musicals, which is our outdoor concert series at Holiday Park. That's every Friday at Holiday Park from 7 to 10 p.m. Every week there's different genres. This genre this week is the top 40s, so look out for that. And then our end of the summer concert, Summer Jams, is on August 16th here at Mills Pond, featuring R&B and pop. There will be national artists to be announced. And lastly, there's a movie in the park on August 23rd at Oswald Park. We typically do these probably every other month at different parks, so look out for that as well. The last thing I have is a playground ordinance. I just wanted to make the board aware that we are looking to bring a playground ordinance to commission in August. Essentially what it is prohibiting adults 18 years or older from entering or remaining in a designated children's play area unless supervising or accompanied with a child. So if we're talking unhoused or we're talking just adults just wandering on the playground or splash pad area, that's what it prohibits, this ordinance that we're looking to put in play. So just giving you an update on that. And that's all I have, and I'll pass it to Director Carl.
All right. Thank you, Amy. Well, good evening, everyone. So just two things that I would like to make the board aware of. As you know, at our last commission meeting, we discussed the dog park rules. And as such, as part of that conversation, it was determined that we need to do some more investigation on this. And so you'll see in our August meeting, there'll be a formal agenda item where we will discuss this item in more detail, as we'll need your help in facilitating discussions with the various homeowners in your specific districts. So be on the lookout for that. Also, as you know, during the summer commission, it goes on break for a month. And so that means July, we will not have a board meeting. And so August will be our next scheduled meeting. All right? And that concludes our department report.
Thank you. Any questions for Carl or Amy off the board? Amy, are we going to have a chance to review that playground ordinance as it comes forward, or is that something that department's doing directly?
Sorry, playing back and forth with the mic. So I can send over the draft ordinance to you. I can email it all to you guys, but we did plan to bring it forth to the...
Any other questions for Carl or Amy? None heard. We're going to move next item on the agenda. Being we have a packed house tonight, I just want to throw out one little housekeeping ground rule. Obviously, please everyone silence your cell phones. It's a public forum and don't want cell phones going off and disturbing those who are speaking. Leona, do we have a list? And then we'll be starting with Brooke Mosier from Colliers, I think it is. Thank you.
Good. There we go. Good evening. Obviously, I'm not Brooke. Ken Krasnow from Collier. I think we were at the last Parks Board advisory meeting. And so we're going to give you an update on the property that we were discussing for acquisition. We have
Yeah, you guys have.
I believe. Yep. Okay. Thank you. Yes. So this is an abbreviated presentation, just an update on the specific property that we discussed at the last board meeting. So just to refresh everybody's memory and what we're talking about. So this is a potential acquisition for District 1, the property address 2201 Northeast 19th Street. The size of the property is just a little over 19,000 square feet. We went through the numbers. There were a number of appraisals that the city has. You can see there the average of the city appraisals was 1.18 million. The property owner appraised the property at 1.74 million, and that is the price that we have under contract currently. Just to refresh your memory again, the owner purchased this entire 85,000 square foot lot a little over a year ago, in September, for 6.8 million. It's currently improved as a church, and as you know, the owner is planning on subdividing the property. The subject property that we're talking about was slated to be an office building and then 7 residential lots. So I think the issue at the last meeting was not necessarily the property or the price or so on and so forth. It was primarily around access and making sure that the public would have unimpeded access to the property. Obviously, what we talked about last time, or we'll refresh your memory, the owner was building an office building that was certainly not going to be behind any kind of secured gate or anything along those lines. But we're here today just to kind of give you a little bit or better visual of how this property lays out. So the next slide, as you can see, there were concerns about this gate. First of all, I will reiterate, this gate is owned by the city of Fort Lauderdale. It's not a secured gate, meaning it's just you pull up, the gate opens. But the reality is the property, as you can see here, is clearly before the gate. So it has nothing to do with people even coming up to and approaching the gate. The access, the entrance to the park will clearly be at that curb cutout there. And I think there are just a few other visual. You can see the wall, and you can see how the public will be able to walk, bike, etc., and have clear access to the site. I think there are just more pictures here. And I think that's so. At the last meeting, I think that was really the crux of the issue, was to make sure that there was unimpeded public access, which hopefully we've demonstrated to you that is the case. As we said, we do have the property under contract, and we're looking for board direction that we will then bring back to Commission in August. And obviously there's a few people here that may want to give their opinion, but generally speaking, I think that was the issue that the board wanted us to investigate. So again, no security with regards to that gate. Gate is owned by the city of Fort Lauderdale, and obviously the park is clearly delineated and before any of the security access. So with that, we'll answer any questions.
What, calculating the price, let's probably keep this from doing that. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
We
Without
probably
the
don't need
feedback.
that, but
I calculate the price to be about $90.21 a square foot. How does that compare to other commercial properties? Because it really was going to be a commercial property, and now it's going to be zoned something else. So do you have any idea what the average price for commercial property is today?
I don't have other comparables in the area, but again, as you see here, there was appraisals done both by the city as well as by the seller. And so I think the price is within market, within market range.
Well, I do see that the appraisal price is only $61 a square foot, and we're paying $90 plus a square foot.
Again, there are
I was trying to
some...
figure out what the difference was and why the price was that much higher and how it compared to other parcels, commercial parcels in the area.
There were the choice of which properties were included in different appraisers, again, is a little bit more of art than science.
Right.
But generally speaking, there were a number of comparables in that range, in that $80 to $90 square foot range.
Now, I do know that there's not a whole lot of green space in that area as far as parks go. Closest thing I can think of is George English, and Cooleyhatchee Park is about the closest thing that I know of other than a school, a park. So there is limited green space in that area. And so from what I can tell, this would be a pretty good place for some green space.
In the prior presentation that we went through, I think we showed you the park serve, and that this would increase accessibility for residents, and that's the goal of the park bond dollars, is to provide more green space. And again, the owner's got plans to effectively build a commercial office building on that site as we speak. If this does not go forward.
Have you reached out to the homeowners association?
Somebody has. Certainly not us.
You're all to be commended for showing up for this, to be honest with you.
Yeah, this is a little unusual because we're usually...
There's only 148 houses in that place, from what I can tell. I think somebody's off from every one of them. But we appreciate you coming out and supporting your community with this.
Oh,
Yes, Mary.
turn on your mic, Mary.
We could hear you.
Just to be clear, the entrance to the park will be on the west side of the gate. Okay.
Correct.
Excellent. Thank you.
Correct.
I know the gate goes up and down, but
No.
Okay.
The entrance you won't have to go through the gate at all.
Terrific. Thank you.
Again, I also reiterate what he said. Thank you for coming out. Chair, actually not Chair, Director Williams, or maybe Chair, can you refresh our memory on how much it would cost to actually create a park in addition to the $1.7 million?
So because this is a land acquisition, we are using those land acquisition dollars from the bond. And so that money is strictly to do that. There aren't any plans to do any development at this time. So for the purposes of now, it's just to acquire the property.
Okay. So I also have another follow-up question. Thank you for putting this together. I actually went in the neighborhood myself. There is an entrance. It is one of the concerns that I shared was it being maybe closed off to the public or appearing that way. So I understand security gate is not manned, but it has all the appearances of that. It's like one car at a time. And before you even get to that, what's not in your picture is the beautiful monument that says Ball Harbor. So if we were to move forward, my recommendation is to make sure that there is signage that makes it clear you are entering a space that is a public park and not a gated community, and also adding a sidewalk on that side, because as of now, if you even want to cross the busy street, you're on the other opposite side and not aware that there's a potential park across the way. So I think that is a huge deal. I know green spaces matter. Green spaces take green bucks. So considering we don't really have green dollars to actually make it a park still gives me some kind of reservation for, we're paying $1.7 million, but then what? How much more does it take to actually make it the park that you need?
Just to kind of chime in on that. So just for the benefit of the board, we've acquired several properties throughout the city. Each commissioner's district had about $7.5 million allocated for them specifically for this purpose. And it doesn't necessarily mean that there won't be like any kind of amenities added to the park. It's just for the purposes of the bond, there was an allocation just for the acquisition of that. And so there may come a time where, we do survey the community and see if they want a playground or anything of that nature in there. But for the purposes of this, it's just for the acquisition.
Can I add to that? Over at, when the city bought Riverland Preserve Park over at the east end of Riverland Road, about all they did was they put up a fence and put some benches, some trash cans, and that's why the place is called Riverland Preserve. We don't have any playground equipment. It's a wooded area. It's just a nice green space. And that's, so they spent good money on the park, but they haven't had to put a whole lot of money into it other than the regular everyday upkeep. And we love it just the way it is.
Hello? All right, sorry. First day on the job, So what I was asking was, has the city set aside funds in order to develop this piece of land into a park, or is the plan just to acquire it with, the idea that we'll figure it out as we go along?
That's correct. Just to acquire the property, and we'll basically see how the community wants the park and go from there, which is what we do for any of the parks that we've acquired with a bond, just the acquisition.
And is there some type of time frame in which we think a decision might be made as to what's going to happen with it, or will the acquisition happen and then they're just going to, I guess, wall it off for the time being until they figure it out?
Right. So once we acquire the property, and it's deemed a park, we will, of course, maybe do minor things like add a trash can, maybe some park benches. But like as far as like a planning of the amenities of the park, there is no timetable for that.
But it will be accessible post-acquisition? It'll just be an empty plot of land, so
Correct.
to speak? Okay. Are there any concerns about, vagrancy or about, upkeep on that parcel of land until it's turned into a park?
I would say it's similar to the concern that we would have at several of our other parks. I know I believe at our last meeting someone mentioned that very same topic, and if that becomes an issue, then we certainly can engage our police and park rangers if there is a park rule violation.
Okay.
Do we know if the developer is building a wall to separate the residential property from the commercial property? Does anybody know out
I
there?
have no idea.
So I just want to, can I address a couple things? I'm chewing on my fingers.
And introduce yourself.
Yeah, introduce yourself.
My name's Craig Batesel. Hi, everyone. I'm the president of the Bal Harbour Homeowners Association. Many of the residents you see here, young and older, are Bal Harbour residents of the HOA, and also we have a number of residents from other neighborhoods that we've invited as well that are also in support of the green space. I don't know how far to go back, but let me address the security questions. We already have a security camera on the park that's live. We have 7 security cameras at our entrance. I can pull it up. We have a number of residents that can pull it up on their iPhone. We have police detail in Bal Harbour, so this is addressing your vagrancy issue or anything like that. The reason you're seeing a green fence there now is because the current property owner has put green fencing all the way around because they're about to demo the church.
Right. I
That's
visited the site yesterday.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Regarding the, what would be in the park and the cost after, we haven't had any kind of a formal vote with the residents or any discussion, but most of the ones I've talked to is exactly what you're saying, something very simple, a green space with some trees, some garbage cans. As far as maintenance, we can maintain it until the city becomes, official and maintains it that way. I mean, I walk through there 3 times a day picking up garbage or whatever's there.
Sure.
So, was there anything, any issue?
Did you know anything about whether the developer's going to put a wall back behind those?
Oh, right. To that question, we do not know.
Okay.
But I assume that it would kind of be like so there's a wall on the left side.
Yes.
There's a wall behind. Whole Foods is right there on the other
Yes.
side. I would assume he would probably put some kind of a wall on the eastern side because he's building 7 residential homes there.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
Told me back when they were trying to do the zone, he told me personally they were put a wall, people would put a wall, what kind, this could probably match the others.
Okay.
Whether that was stipulation in getting it zoned or in how they provide property, I don't know. But he had stated publicly to me there would be a wall.
Okay, that there would be a wall. It would make sense that there would be a wall there like that. But the other thing to point out is when you come into the neighborhood, to be clear about the access to the park, the church that's there now, you could actually access the church and where the park would be through an alley. It's actually a paved road, and make the left and completely bypass the whole guardhouse there. So that's the current access there.
Right. I noticed that when I was out there yesterday, that there's a whole alley that goes by. You could actually go in
Yes.
before your gate, go around the back of the church, and then come out on the north
Yes.
side if you want.
The only reason, yeah, I think they were, Mike is bringing up the issue of the sidewalk. I don't know if the sidewalk comment, there's a sidewalk on the south side of the street. Perhaps you were suggesting a sidewalk.
Correct. I
on
was
the-
suggesting on the opposite
Yeah,
side,
exactly.
just to make it enter to the
Right.
park.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
And we have no problem with any kind of signage or anything about it being a.
Since you're here, let me ask you, the other question I had, because you had a lot of them rolling in your head, was about the signage on the monument. So right now it says Ball Harbor. I think, could there be a discussion about softening that and making it more clear that it's actually maybe when you have the park name, having that on the monument sign?
I don't know. We haven't really gone that far, but again, that neighborhood is Ball Harbor. Whether there's a commercial building there or not, it's Ball Harbor. So when the people from the church used to go in, they would drive past the 2 walls that said Ball Harbor and make that left into where the park would be. So, but we can talk about signage. I mean, we're open to something like that. We do like our entrance. We won an award from the city. We have the brass plaque mounted on the guardhouse and all of that. So, whatever is done should be tasteful. And we
It's
assume
beautiful.
it would be.
It's nice.
Yeah,
and
thank
for
you.
a point of clarity, Charlie, the Riverland Preserve that we have, it was a house, and there was already a lot of grass. Like, the city did not go in, but beyond cleaning up the land, there was a lot. It was a beautiful home with a lot and
Yes,
grass.
They did tear
Yeah.
down an old house
Yeah.
that was falling apart.
Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt. Any other
That's okay.
questions? Okay. Thank you. No. Okay.
No. Once the city, if it's approved at the park and then approved at commission and the city owns it, the city will have, and the residents will have access to it, but it's not going to be used for a construction staging site or anything like that. Carl's a tough man. He'll take care of it. He will.
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention as well that when and if the property is acquired, we will post a park sign there, so you'll know that that is a park in the city.
Yes.
Okay, I have a question because, to be honest, the price is really what gets me, especially because I assume that the city was using commercial appraisers and probably maybe the owners were, well, I'm not going to go over that, but it's significantly more than what the city appraisers, have 1.18, 1.74, that's almost 50%, 60%, something like that. So my question is did you ever go to, like, for the developer and the impact fees and all, and they can donate some of that land, why isn't he donating it versus why are we purchasing it?
He was not offering this land for sale. He was planning on building an office building. And we approached him and, had to obviously negotiate with appraisals and so on and so forth. But he was basically going down the road of building an office building and was very, happy and content to do that. So we brought the opportunity to him and had to sort of, bring him along in terms of selling it.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Amanda Four. I am an assistant to Commissioner Herbst in District 1. And we had several meetings with Cabot Edward, the owner of the parcel, and the appraisal. And based on ours, our charter permits us to increase up to a certain amount of money. And that was still less than what Cabot has for an appraisal for his land. So he met us at the 1.74, I think it is. Yeah, so he met us there for that. And so there have been a lot of talks. And in addition to that, I believe the price, and I'm looking at Carl, but I believe that this has been approved by commission at this point, that we are permitted to do the 1.74?
Yes, so Commissioner Herbst, as well as our other commissioners, have a balance of $7.5 million, and Commissioner Herbst still has a remaining balance in his. I want to say it's somewhere around $4 million or so left in his allotment. And Commissioner Vice Mayor Glassman also has some allotment in his. So those are the only two districts that still have money available for land acquisitions.
And to be fair, at the August meeting, the commission that still has to vote on the actual acquisition is going to be able to, address any of the issues with regards to price. So that's, still for final commission vote in August to go forward with the acquisition.
I had a couple additional questions still. Right now the church is there. It kind of sounds like, obviously there's a green fence around it to be demolished. I'm still under the presumption that that is going to happen on the developer's dime before the city acquires this property or would acquire this property. But going back to several of the other board members' concerns, the size of the property and the price of the property. I've run numbers. I've spoken with several commercial real estate brokers over the past, since this last meeting, and this has come up again. And the price definitely seems to be high, and I don't know if the commission is willing to go back to the table and revisit this at all. But, even compared to the size of the property at large, which is 84,000 square feet, we're paying a premium for the B1 zoning section over what's now the residential zoning section. The city has no intention of using the B1 zoning for anything. It's going to be a park. So we're paying an absolute premium that's going to vanish the moment we buy it. I don't see it as a good utilization of city dollars, taxpayer dollars. I recognize we love park property and we want park property, and this would be a lovely place. But the price, as Charlie said, he's got it at $60 a square foot for everything around there. Just the general price of everything combined is $80 a square foot, and we're looking at paying $90-something a square foot for this property that can't be used for anything other than a buffer of green space between some houses and a wall.
It's going to be used as an office building.
I understand it could be used as an office
Well, it will
building,
be.
but it wouldn't be used by the city as an office building.
Right. It would be used.
So that capacity of commercial application literally evaporates the moment the city buys the property. Yet we're paying a $500,000 premium for that zoning. It's hard to stomach.
I understand, but we're obviously still in a very challenging, real estate market. Land is at a premium. Land is scarce. They're not making any more of it, and in a lot of cases, where we have to sort of preemptively or proactively approach a number of these people that are not necessarily looking to sell their property, because quite honestly, most of the time when I forgot the gentleman's name who's new to the board, but part of our process, as you understand, with getting appraisals and so on and so forth, if an owner puts a property on the market, whether it's a house or just a general, commercial piece of property, we're generally not going to be able to acquire that property, even if it's the perfect property at the perfect price, just because of the time and the effort and the commission approval and Parks Brown approval and so on and so forth. So sometimes there are premiums paid because we're effectively going out and acquiring property that is not on the market. And so that's the, kind of the trade-off of something that will be developed as a commercial office building versus something that we can now acquire and use as a park. But that's a commission and your board decision.
Another thing I think it's important to take into consideration is that, and you were mentioning it, that the developer can just say no and said, I'm building an office building here. And
when we first approached him, he said no.
And he would probably make a couple $1 million doing that. Or whatever the numbers
presumably, if he built an office building and leased up an office building and then ultimately sold it and so on and so forth, he'd probably do better than
from the developer's perspective, he's saying, well, why would I lower the price that I'm willing to sell for if I can just keep it and build and make a ton of money? So, I think it's important to keep that into consideration.
And also, if he went through a considerable time and expense to get this property replatted and so on and so forth. And so he's spent money when he acquired it, back in whatever it was, September of last year. He has spent considerable money getting this property ready for development, office and residential, and we came to him and effectively, disrupted his plans, and that was part of the, negotiation. So,
I also wanted to ask: is the developer requiring any special restrictions as part of the agreement, like maybe a covenant that runs with the land that, just any special requests, or is it just a clean deal? Like, hey, here's the property, here's the.
I mean, it's being bought with park dollars, so the land is going to remain as a park. That's.
But what I mean is, like,
the
he's not asking
developer's
for any special treatment. Is what I mean to ask.
Okay. So in the purchase and sale agreement, there is a covenant that says this land will remain as a park.
Are there any other covenants in the agreement that the developer is asking for special treatment or any other special circumstances?
No.
Other than the price, which seems to be a little bit of a bone of contention with us, what other properties in the general area have we looked at, or is there anything else available? Like you said, the real estate market is pretty tight, and there aren't a whole lot of properties available. We did have a parcel, I think last year sometime, where the neighborhood said, no way, thank you very much, but we're not interested. And this
hopefully
property,
that's not the case here tonight, but yes, we've gone down the road, as you know, on a number of properties where we generally don't bring a property to the board for consideration until we actually have it under contract. And if the neighborhood, for whatever reason, chooses not to go forward, we pass.
Yep.
But yes, generally speaking, it is still a extremely challenging market. As I said, if you see a sign on a piece of property, generally speaking, we're not able to be a buyer for it just because of the time
It's
that
a
it
3 to
takes us
6
for us
month to 9 month process for us.
It'll be gone.
We realize that. Other than the price, pros and cons is, what we're looking at here. To me, the con would be the price, all right? But I understand the added value to the developer because of what he's planning on doing with the commercial property. For me, the pros are that there's not a whole lot of green space in that area whatsoever. I mean, I've looked at around the area. I've looked at the Broward County property appraisers where they have the local green spaces. Just a second, please. And there's very little, just basically none. Like I said, Coolahatchee and George English Park.
This area in particular was identified as an area
it's
of
void
need,
of green space.
and that's why we've been out, kind of turning rocks over and trying to find
And there are
land
other-
in this area. It's not easy to find.
Some of us had a little bit of a concern that this was just going to be for Bal Harbor. Because of the gate, there were some of us who said, "Oh, this is just it's only for the 148 residents." Before you get mad at me and scream at me, we know that's not the case. I've looked around, I've drove around. There's home residences to the south. There's more residents to the north. There's stuff on the west side of Federal Highway. Being a green space, I do think, as much as many of us are not happy with the price, I do think because of where it's at and the void we have of green space, it might be the best we can do with the current circumstances and real estate market and construction market and all that other stuff going on, that this might not be a bad deal after all. Sure.
Okay. The commissioner wanted me to relay some information about the pocket parks too. So at the beginning of this meeting, we discussed how there are very few parks in that area. And at the previous meeting, they kind of showed us the walking area of people who could also access the park. But there are numerous parks that were offered up as pocket parks. So there's Coral Ridge Isles. There's Coral Ridge has a pocket park along Bayview. Sunrise Intercoastal has a pocket park in their neighborhood. And these are all neighborhood-specific parks that only people that can walk to them will utilize.
Sure.
So we have a precedent of allowing that.
I just have a question. How many people actually know that there's a Coral Ridge Park on Bayview? Because a lot of people only go to Bayview Park because they don't realize that it's there.
I would actually, before you answer, counter. The difference is my daughter, we used to go to Bayview Park all the time. They have beautiful monuments depending on which entrance you come in, but not a gate, not a Bal Harbor police car that's parked by the fencing that kind of deters you. So I would actually counter that those pocket parks, those two ones that I've been to, actually are more open and inviting depending on which way you come into the neighborhood. This one is a closed neighborhood.
I think we did. I believe Carl addressed that by saying that he would put signage up to let people know that it's a park and that there are two different entrance points according to Craig. Those have been addressed, and then this is just to zone it park, and then after that, Parks Department can determine what it is going to be with the neighborhood and with public participation and all of that. So right now, this meeting is really just to see if the city can acquire the property, or if you, as a board, approve the property to be acquired by the city.
I just want to say that I think anybody that lives in that part of Coral Ridge is very aware of that park and on Bayview Drive. And that happened many, many years ago because the people that lived in that area felt that George English was too far for them to walk, and we were able to buy that property. I remember it was $1 million. I nearly passed out that we paid for that property, but it's very well utilized by the people that live there. Or you don't use it?
People outside.
Oh, people
My
outside.
counter
I
is
don't
that
know.
there
No,
are
there's
people
no
outside.
parking. There's no parking there, so you got to. So it really is people
Yeah.
in the neighborhood. Where George English, there's places to park. I mean, everybody uses George English Park. This could be. There's parking lots all over, but there's no park anywhere near them at all. And so, and I know it's expensive, but that's District 1. It is not, property is not cheap there. It's very, very expensive. I know because I live there, and not in their neighborhood, but in across the water. So I mean, I just think it's a good deal all around. The last time, the really thing that stuck us was we couldn't tell where the entrance. There was just nobody here to be able to verify that the entrance would be, on the west side of the gate. And I think we really debated the price quite a bit. And I think, as Charlie says, it's just a good idea, and we're not going to see this kind of property and this kind of place come around very often, if ever, again in that area.
Yeah, you're correct, Mary. And just to put a price on it, it was $1.5 million for Coral Ridge. So, yeah.
And that was so long ago. It was very long ago.
Go ahead, Carl.
All right, just also real quick for the board's consideration is that as we go through the acquisition of parks, part of our mission is to identify parks that we can access, that the community can access within a 10-minute walk. And so this addresses that need as well.
I don't know what the protocol is, but I just wanted to address the issue about that there's no green space in that area. In fact, not only is there no green space in our area, quite the opposite is happening with overbuilding in our area. They tore down a Panera coffee shop and are building a huge Publix there, which is going to kill us from a traffic perspective in and out of our neighborhood. It may not seem a big deal to you guys, but they're tearing down, we used to use the church parking lot, and building 7 more homes in there. So not only do we not have any green space in our area, but the opposite is happening, and this would be a huge help to us in that area.
Hi, my name's Mike Hamway. I'm on the committee with the Homeowners Association that was formed to address the issue of the park. To kind of touch on what Craig was saying, this was essentially a green space. It was an area of open grass. I taught my kids how to ride their bikes in that. There was a big parking lot that the city commissioners looked at and thought it was used as a parking lot. It wasn't. It was used essentially as a neighborhood play area. And as far as the condition, when we're talking about, is it just going to be a dirt lot? This is an area with mature gumbo limbo trees, at least 10 of them that are dotting the perimeter of it. It's beautiful, mature growth. It doesn't need much other than to just be mowed and not have those trees torn down. The one thing that I thought was interesting, the Publix I think, is an issue that bears directly on what would be nice about that park. Anyone going to that Publix, anyone at that Whole Foods who wants to get their lunch and walk into a green space will have access to that immediately, and all the parking will be already set up by the Publix. So people who are going to be drawn to the area by the Publix are going to see that park. They're going to be able to utilize it naturally. It's going to be a natural, I think, adjunct of the construction of the Publix. The zoning is an issue that I think is worth talking about a little bit. At the city commission meetings, they talked about how this property ended up being zoned B1, and it was zoned B1 because the church was actually there before the zoning map was officially adopted. And so they had to figure out a designation for it. And so even though it's zoned B1, it is so inconsistent with any commercial property. It's to the idea that would become an office building and that it would turn into another asphalt tower. It's just a disaster for the neighborhood and for the surrounding community when you have this park. Truthfully, if we should have probably tried to get the whole property as a park, but everyone who's here and this whole process was kicked off by just people in the community recognizing that there was this little bit left this little bit of green space left that we could kind of seize on and grab. And so, I just wanted to add that context, and thank you for the courtesy of allowing me to address you. Thank you.
Amy, did you still have something?
I just wanted to remind you that you have people signed up to speak.
All right. I know.
When I went out to the park, sorry, a little presumptuous here. When I went out to the property yesterday, there are probably 10 to 15 Royal Poincianas that are around. Okay. What I was going to ask, Carl, is there something that we can do, some kind of agreement between the owner of the property and the city where those trees could be, they could demo the property without demoing the trees, and then
I'll take them out at night.
and move those trees to the park area, because those are some beautiful, mature Royal Poinciana trees.
I can ask around about that, and we can see what we can do.
Yeah, it would be great, because I would hate to see all those trees just wiped off the face of the earth.
Can you? What were the trees that you're referring to? The
Royal Poincianas.
Royal Poincianas.
They're on they're on the outside of the fence right now. There might be others inside. There's some coconut palms and things like that, but those would be okay. But the Royal Poincianas that are lined
I hope they're within the city.
right away. Yeah, but you know how demo guys are. They see something and they mow it down. So.
Yeah. Is the board ready kind of to vote, or do we want to continue to? Go ahead. I
have a couple of questions. So, first I want to congratulate this community. I think this is a great collaboration. Looks like the issue is very important, more important than building a new city hall in the city. I participated in some workshops, and there was half of this room. So I think parks are more important than city hall. Although do the survey, I think survey is on the website if it comes to the city hall that we about to build. Again, I said at the last meeting, I'm very concerned about the price. I'm also concerned about office building. I don't want to disrupt anybody's plans. I think building office building would bring the revenue to the city, not only impact fee, but also tax revenue when we facing a decision to spend the money. Green space, very important, but this is a top dollar that we have to pay, not only to acquire the land, to convert that land to the livable or walkable, not livable, but something pleasant to sit on and look at on. So that's going to be expenses annually to maintain that green space. And I understand the security right now over there, but again, that's not the city security. The moment when the property becomes the city property is going to be our problem, and we're going to have to spend some money. I'm quite confused the role of the Collier and Cannon Brook. Please, like you mentioned, you disrupted the plans of the owner. What is the role? How this happened? I understand the community is approaching us right now. Didn't happen in 2023 when entire land was for acquisition. What's happening here? And what is your role? You're not the owner rep.
No. So we're the city's real estate consultant, and as Carl mentioned, there was a study done when the park bond was passed to identify areas of need where there was a lack of green space, where the city would invest some of the park dollars. And so effectively our job is to go into these areas of needs and try to identify properties that we could acquire with park bond dollars, which is what we've done over the last couple of years throughout various districts within the city. And as I said, we generally are approaching property owners who are not selling their property as I stated, because if they were, we're probably too late to the game. So we are the city's real estate advisor. We go out, we identify the property, we negotiate, try to get the owner to be a willing seller, try to obviously get a fair price, work with the appraisals, bring the contract to the board for your consideration. That's our role.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to address another thing that you mentioned. And so you're talking about the price, but you're also saying that the city could make more money if we didn't zone it as a park. We are not interested in this property for the commercial use. That would be the developer himself would be using that as a commercial. So we have $30 million. We had $30 million in the Parks Bond money to build parks in underserved communities and underserved areas. This is an area that we've talked about that is underserved. And in addition, some of the other parks that were purchased there, some of the other pocket parks like North Ocean, it was over $1 million. The one that we just spoke about at Coral Ridge was 1.5. So the price, and those were in the past. So the price right now isn't something that's extremely out of the realm of normalcy. And we are not going to make any money off this property as a commercial property. So I just wanted to clarify that a little bit.
So you're telling me that building an office building, that would not bring the revenue to the city?
No, tonight we're here to decide if the board thinks that the city should acquire this property for a park for the neighborhood. The property doesn't belong to us, it belongs to a developer.
I understand.
And so if we don't purchase this, he will use it as a commercial site and make more money than what he would be making to let us purchase it as a park. Does that make sense?
I understand that, but again, we're not going to be building office building. I understand that part that as a city. But when the developer decides to move forward with his plan, and he probably already had a permit, I don't know what the situation is, but seems like he had a plan for that entire site, including office building.
It is just an office building, correct?
And that would generate real estate taxes that would be paid to the city. That's my point.
I see. I understand. Okay.
Mike, I guess what I'm getting back to again is there's very little green space in that area. There is bond money to spend on acquisition of parks. We haven't been able to acquire that much in District 1 and District 2 because of the price of the real estate. If I remember right, we had another parcel off of 50 something or other, and it was an apartment building, and it was way out of whack price-wise, and we told them forget about it. But I realize the price has been kind of a concern here, but I do think because of where it's at and the lack of green space, that this still would be, even though I do think we're overpaying a little bit, I do think it would be the best thing we could do for this area as far as green space goes.
Do we have any additional discussion before we're trying to move to a vote? Potentially. Yeah, there was a couple more speakers. I realize that. Sorry. Do we have the list for the speakers? Could we call them up one by one, whoever still hasn't spoken? And Collier's one other question.
Yes.
And I hate to bring up a morbid question, but it was a former church. Do we know if anybody was ever buried on the church grounds? And I would say that just because, again, we're parks and cemeteries in the city, but I just don't want to get in a business of having to excavate and relocate or anything like that. But it's a fair question.
We do not.
Has anybody ever done a survey or an assessment of the grounds?
We
to
do
make
not,
sure?
but we are in the process of doing a phase one, and so we'll have that information before we bring that to commission.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Craig, I know you've spoken already. You've had your piece. Douglas Foncher, go ahead.
an overall aerial view, put that up.
I don't have control over the IT aspect of it, but okay. IT's working on it. Also, just a housekeeping order, can we keep public comments to 3 minutes max per person? We have quite a few people signed up here. So.
That'll be good right there.
Sir, excuse me. Although he invited you up, could you please state your name?
It's Douglas Fulcher.
Fulcher?
Fulcher, F-U-L-C-H-E-R.
Thank you.
And I'm at 2200 Northeast 19th Street. I'm going to move away from the mic. There's nobody going to be closer to this property than me, than one house that hasn't, well, I guess maybe three that haven't been built yet. Right now, and I need to point again, the shopping center there, that's the strip that's there does not utilize that back part of the parking lot. I've been there for 7 years, and I can't tell you the number of different, who knows what kind of activities go on in that parking lot. Once you pass, it's like going into a different world. I'm afraid of an office building going in there, and it's diagonally right across, it's across the street. What is it going to do to my property values? And also, it just looks like it's in the wrong spot. But in looking at, in the cities, where you can click on different properties to see who owns it, that current kind of trapezoid there, it's all owned by the same developer, but it's plotted in like 4 different plots. I'm worried that if the developer moves ahead with his office building, he then in turn could sell it to these people, tear down that small thing, and then have a much bigger piece of property to go there and totally wreck our entrance into our neighborhood, the overall feel, and probably hurt values because people go into the property. I don't want to live next to that. I'd rather have a park next to it. And the real estate values in our neighborhood are already going pretty good. I don't want to see anything upsetting that. And the park would be great for that. One other thing I want to point out was who else would use it? Because I'm right at the front gate, and I'm out in the yards a fair amount. I bump into people who have come in from other parts. They've walked in, some of them are in Poinsett Heights, some of them are further south, and they come out down one street to go up to Federal, and they come into our big neighborhood because it's quiet. They don't have any surface streets, any cross traffic to work with or anything like that. But when I heard it was a park, I thought it was wonderful. The developer has told me personally, and this was kind of the beginning, he did not know what he was going to build there. I think to get it plotted, it was a 10,000 square foot office. But we really don't know what it is, and it's not committed. But I'm more afraid of what he could possibly do if he actually moves forward. It isn't just an office building. It's going to be maybe something else. Pardon my voice. I just got out of the hospital yesterday. But I was passionate about this. So I would be at home tonight, but I'm passionate about what happens right there. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you. Thank you. I have Norby Bells.
Hello, I did not get the green memo, so thank you for the handkerchief. I do not live in Bell Harbor. My name's Norby Bells. I'm the vice president of the North Beach Businesses and a former member of your wonderful board. I would encourage you to strongly support this. On the board, I always advocate for actual green space in our city. So this is an opportunity for us to have actual green space. So I strongly encourage you to do this because think of these neighborhoods. The green spaces are the heart, the wellness of these neighborhoods. These are the things that bring the community together. And without them, communities suffer. I live in a neighborhood. We've been fighting for a park for 3 years. We would kill to have this. So please forget about the price because it really is a nominal price for the wellness of a neighborhood. So I strongly encourage this. And then also, too, I know the city's been doing a fantastic job of zoning all the previous spaces as parks. To remember to please approve this and then zone into it as a park so that they don't have to worry about it in the future. So Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We have Laura Gesselbrot next.
Kind of used to my name getting butchered, but you did a great job. Thank you all for your passion on this issue. I really appreciate it. I wanted to mention, I've been in the environmental field for over 35 years, and if there's one thing that we're missing in our cities is green space for kids to be able to meet, maybe throw a baseball, run, play some tag, for our neighbors to get together. We are a very social neighborhood, and we're walking constantly through it with dogs and kids, bicyclists, people coming in from other neighborhoods. I've met several people on a regular basis that come in our neighborhood to walk. It's very important for the psychological wellness of our kids. It's not all about the cash for the city, because if you don't live in a healthy, welcoming environment that makes you feel peaceful, what's the point of living in Fort Lauderdale? The nice thing about Fort Lauderdale is we have a lot of trees, a lot of green space, not enough, but we have a lot, which makes our community special. I go to other parts of the country, it's a concrete jungle. Let's not turn Fort Lauderdale into that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have Bonnie Gross next.
Bonnie Gross, 1907 Northeast 21st Street. So I am one of these people who come into Bal Harbour to walk. I live in Poinsettia Heights across Federal Highway. And on Sunday mornings when there's not as much traffic on Federal, I hate crossing at that crosswalk because it's really hazardous. It's going to get worse with that Publix. My husband and I walk over to Bal Harbour and stroll up and down. And I've often thought, it has so little traffic. It's very nice for walking and for bicyclists. So I'm very supportive of a park there because on Poinsettia Heights, we don't have a park. And so this would be in our neighborhood too. And one of the things that I don't think anyone's mentioned is that for years, while the parking lot for the church was there, on Sunday mornings when we would walk, we would see a yoga class on the concrete because that was this available public space. This was a recreation space. And people would come and put their mats out. I don't think they were all Bal Harbour residents. I think this was being used as a recreation space at the time. So if you wonder, would people from other neighborhoods come here? They did. They did when there was a space. And so I think if you have grass there, I think that I don't know who taught the yoga class, but I bet it was wanted to confirm that it's not just a park for Bal Harbour residents.
Thank you. We have Landon Campbell and Brent Campbell next.
We're the Campbell family. Landon, introduce yourself.
I'm Landon.
All right. So a few years ago, so basically I use the church parking lot a lot with my son. We'd play baseball, catch. He rides his bike around there a lot. And when the park spawn actually came out, I said, you know what? This could be a really great opportunity for our neighborhood to possibly get a park. So I looked for about 2 years using Google Earth, trying to figure out what plot of land, and every single one that I kind of identified, it was bought up and developed like that, right? So when this happened and they decided to actually develop a commercial plot in our neighborhood, right, with a medical facility, I just said, this can't happen. Where am I going to play with my son, right? So they're taking away the church parking lot. Here's this great opportunity. Yes, prices have doubled in 4 years since COVID, so prices are expensive. But it just seems to me like what a tremendous opportunity to not build a commercial property in our neighborhood to allow Landon and his little brother and Kate, when she walks by, to go play. Would you like to say something, Landon? Go ahead. This is your opportunity for your park. You can do it. All right, he's a little nervous. You want ice cream or not?
Thank you, London. No. Thank you, Landon. You've done enough.
All right, you can sit down. You want to say anything? No, that's okay. We appreciate him.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you,
Thank you,
Landon, for
Landon.
coming up to the podium.
Good job.
Thank you to the Campbell family. Vanessa Apotheker? Oh, okay. And then Ted and Sarah.
I can't believe Ted missed the opportunity to talk in front of a microphone.
All right. We've heard all the public. Did anybody by chance get a count of how many people are here tonight from the public? And just a quick question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Any opposed? So on the count sheet, just making a note that everybody that showed up in public here was in favor. I'm just curious of a count because that's one of the largest turnouts we've ever had for a Parks Advisory Board meeting. Thank you. At this point, I need either a motion or
I'll move to
a
vote.
continued. We have a motion?
Yeah.
Do we have a second?
Motion to vote. Second.
We have a second. Do we have any more discussion?
Yes, I have one question to Carl. Carl, since we have a bond money, 30 million, we have some deadline to spend that money. Usually it's a 3-year cycle, so which year we are right now?
As far as the cycle, I'm not sure on where we stand on that cycle, but as part of the Parks bond, it was based on a 10-year bond, and so that allocation won't go anywhere. It's with Commissioner Herbst in District 1.
So there was 10 years to spend the money?
So it's a 5 to 10 year bond, and the 5 to 10 years is essentially for the design, construction, acquisition of property and real estate.
And we passed that bond like 3 years ago?
The bond referendum passed in 2019.
2019, all right, thank you. So 5 years, so we halfway. Thank you.
I was asked, Solomon, sorry, I actually need a formal motion, something stated as far as
Correct.
you wish to proceed with a
I wish to
motion
move
to XYZ.
I move for a motion to approve the acquisition.
At the purchase price.
At the purchase price of
1.74.
1.75 million.
I second.
1.74.
Sorry,
Sir, if I may,
1.74.
yeah, just I move to approve. You don't need I move for a motion. Just to clarify.
I move to approve.
Oh,
Yes.
we don't have to have a full written out motion, or is it?
Right, but I just, instead of I move to approve a motion, just I move to approve and then he can state his motion. I just wanted to clarify the statement. Patricia St. Joseph, Assistant City Attorney.
Thank you. And Barbara, you seconded it? Who seconded it?
Right. Can you just restate so we can clarify this? I apologize. I just need, sir, I apologize. Can you just please restate your motion for the record? Since this is regarding Parks bond money, we just need to make sure that the record is
Yeah.
clear.
I'll try to get it right. I
Thank
move to approve the motion to.
No,
Okay.
no.
I move to approve the acquisition of the parcel at 1.74 million.
One more time.
Are we good or?
I think he's good.
Okay.
You good?
And for the record, it's the Bal Harbor parcel.
The Bal Harbor parcel.
Right.
All right.
So noted.
You have a second.
Motion's
Would you
in
like-
place. We have a second. Any more discussion? None heard. We'll need a roll call vote.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Roll call vote on the motion. Mr. Gunter? Chair Gunter?
I've been turned to a yes.
Vice Chair Leacoff?
Yes. Yes.
Ms. Peliquin?
Yes.
Ms. Zarko?
No.
Excuse me.
No.
No? Noted. Ms. Oglesby?
Yes.
Ms. McGill?
Yes.
Ms. Rexo?
Well, considering that there would be a public access point, not only one, but I'm hearing two,
Yes or no?
and I think London convinced me, so yes.
Ms. Sisler?
Yes.
To confirm, Mr. Schoonover?
Yes.
That is 8 yeses, Mr. Chairman. Motion passes.
Can I just say that I work with an organization, and these guys know, that 50 different civic associations around the city are part of it, are members of it, including your neighborhood. And I have never seen so many people come to a parks board. I mean, you guys are to be commended for coming out. So thank you.
Now you have to show up to the commission meeting to persuade them to actually vote in your favor. Keep those green shirts.
Thank you all.
Carl. Carl, you're next on the agenda. I don't see why you're not presenting yet.
We ready to move on?
Thank you very much.
Carl, I was saying I don't understand the delay. You're next on the agenda and you haven't moved forward yet.
Where did everyone go?
Apparently, don't hear the rest.
All right, we're done.
All
Apparently,
right,
they don't want to stay for the rest of the meeting. I don't know why.
You know, I thought that was going to go fast. Like, oh, that'll happen. Boom, 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 boom. I mean, my
Carl,
God,
you
we're an
lost
hour and a
your
half into
audio.
the meeting. And a second meeting about it. Huh?
All right, Carl, you're next on the agenda.
the
Item
first
3,
thing.
Bass Park
Okay.
District 3 Land Acquisition Fund.
Yes. So, as you all may recall, several meetings ago, we brought forth Carter Park for additional funding, which you all did approve. Went through the public hearing process, and commission ultimately approved. Today, this item before you is to reallocate some of those funds to move forward with Bass Park. So Carter Park, as it stands now, we're still $8 million short of meeting that goal as a signature park. Bass Park is roughly $600,000 short for us to go ahead and begin movement on that particular project. So in conversations with the district commissioner, she was in support of moving that $600,000 over to finalize Bass Park while we continue to work towards funding Carter Park in its totality. So essentially, the request here that we're asking the board is to review that the $600,000 be taken from the Carter Park portion to be allocated to Bass Park so that that property or that project can begin. And that's the request.
So do we first have to make a motion to pull, because we approved the funds transferred to Carter theoretically, do we first have to put a motion out to back the funds back out of Carter and then forward to, or?
Yeah, so looking at the attorney, I believe that is a yes.
Yes, that is correct. You have to first move to pull the money from that pot and then reallocate it. So,
Okay,
we
so-
will need two motions to answer your question. Does that clarify?
Can I get a motion?
I make a motion to reallocate funds from the Carter Park park acquisition to move it to the Bass
Park
project.
I second.
Any seconds? Oh,
It's 600,000.
Sir, can you include that number in your motion so that we could just
Sure.
clarify the motion?
I make a motion to reallocate funds, $600,000 worth of funds from the Carter Park acquisition and improvement project, I guess it is, to the Bass Park project.
And that is coming from District 3. District 3's land acquisition.
Yeah, and that's coming from District 3. Acquisition funds.
And just to clarify, so you're moving to reallocate $600,000 from the land acquisition funds from District 3. Okay.
So we really need to make two motions. So
Yes.
I make a motion to reallocate, to remove $600,000 worth of funds from the Carter Park improvement project from District 3, right? That's what we
That's
need
correct,
to do
yes.
first.
That's the first motion, correct?
Okay, we need a second.
Correct. Mr. Chair, do you want a second on that?
yeah, we'll need a second for that motion. Okay. And then any discussion?
I have a discussion. I'm sorry, Director Williams, can you then explain how this will affect the Carter project and their advancement?
Yes. So as it stands now, like I mentioned, we are $8 million short, and we don't have a current plan to fill that funding gap as of now. We have reached out for some grants, and we're waiting for some kind of return on if we're going to be awarded those grants. So right now, Carter Park is at a standstill.
And does the district commissioner support this removal of funds?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry. Why it's the $8 million short? There was not evaluated right? What happened?
So Carter Park is a signature project, as you all know, and the cost of construction is, for lack of a better word, outrageous. And we've done some value engineering efforts to get it within budget, but we're talking a complete redesign and scope just to fit it within the total budget of the project. And in order for us to move that forward, a decision was made to not do that unless we can truly make it a signature park. And so right now, like I mentioned, we're about $8 million short, and we're actively awaiting the finality of a grant award that will hopefully bring us closer, if not the total amount so that we can move forward with that project too. But as of right now, there's no additional funding mechanism that we have right now to fully fund that project. And if we do not find additional funding, then we will have to reduce the scope of the project.
Okay, and also for a record, so Carter Park and Bass Park, they both District 3?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question because I think it was like a few meetings ago when we approved this, and it was either 9 or 10 million the Carter Park was off because the additional, and now you're saying 8 million. So I'm trying to understand, did you like within that time gain $1 million from somewhere or some grant that you received from now this day?
Give me 1 second. Let me give you the breakdown. Okay, so the total project of Carter Park is roughly 26 million. And so there's an allocation of some CRA funding, which is 2.1 million. We have a grant that's 118,000 of cultural facilities. And then the project itself was given $12 million. So that brought us to about 15.8. Now, you're referring to where we closed the gap. We also used 2.8 million in park impact fees. And so that's what brought it down to about our gap of 8 million.
Okay. So it seems like you still keep on trying to get Carter Park funded.
Yes.
Essentially. Okay. Yes. And then, so how would that, I guess, kind of getting back to, I feel like in some sense, I felt that way last time, but like we keep on digging a hole with Carter Park. And I know that it's a signature park and I get that, but, eventually, like how can we, like recuperate? Is there a really, like, what is the likelihood that that Carter Park will have? I know there was like knocking down of the new buildings and all, but like, what is it? Is it going to happen or like, is it?
Yes. So in my last conversation that I had with the district commissioner, she really wanted to view all options available. She didn't want to do a project and not really do the project that was requested from the community. And keep in mind, when we did the bond referendum, this was before COVID. And as we know, everything kind of escalated from that post-COVID. And so essentially we had to redesign the project, which we've gone through a couple of renderings of those. We presented those to the district commissioner. And, when you're talking about a 50,000 square foot building being drawn down to about a 26,000 square foot building, that's a significant loss. And so instead of us basically tearing down buildings to just build what we currently have, the thought was just, let's take a step back. Let's see if we can apply for some more grants. Let's see if we can identify some more funding, just like the park impact fees, to move this project forward. So that's the history on that.
Carl, so when this happens, does Bass give back the funding later? Or now you just need $8,600,000 and you're giving up $600,000 to Bass?
Right. So once we put this out to formal bid, we'll have a better idea of the total cost. But the bond estimate states that we're about $600,000 short. So this will give us the funding to move that project forward so we can put it out to bid, and they won't be giving it back. So yes, we'll be 8.6 short now.
At least we'll get one park going in the right direction.
Correct.
Instead of having two sitting doing nothing.
Correct, and that's the thought.
Any additional discussion? Do we need a roll call vote then on this? Okay.
Yes.
And this is purely for pulling it back out of Carter to basically the acquisition pot right now. And then we'll be making a second motion to do something
For the
with
use
it.
of those funds
Perfect.
or to allocate them
Just making sure I'm on
to Bass.
Okay. This is on the motion to remove the funding to Bass. We'll start with Chair Gunter,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lykoff,
Yes.
Ms. Peliquin,
Yes?
Ms. Tarko,
Yes.
Ms. Oglesby, Ms. McGill, Ms. Rexo, Ms. Sisler,
Yes.
Mr. Schoonover,
Yes.
and Ms. Ritter is not here. Sorry, I didn't pull that through. Thank you. Of those present, it's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Could we also get another motion to move the $600,000 from now, I guess, the bond acquisition funds for District 3 to utilize them at Bass Park for the improvements needed?
So I move to approve $600,000 from District 3 acquisition funds to Bass Park for their improvement project.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, the second part? I'm sorry.
Yes, I move to approve allocating $600,000 from District 3 acquisition fund for the Bass Park improvement project.
Who seconded? McGill, thank you.
Any discussion? None heard. Can we move forward with a vote?
Yes. Okay. Chair Gunter,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lykoff,
Yes.
Ms. Peliquin,
Yes?
Ms. Tarko,
Yes.
Ms. Oglesby?
Yes.
Yes. Ms. McGill? Yes. Ms. Rexo?
Yes.
Ms. Sisler?
Yes.
And Mr. Schoonover?
Yes.
Unanimous, sir.
Thank you. So we finished item 3. Item 4 on the agenda, update to park rules and regulations, 4.9. Carl?
Yes, sir. So as you all recall, the last time when we brought our park rules, we talked about, of course, the dogs in parks, and then we also talked about the erecting of tents, because there's a concern with specifically referring to on the beach of erecting tents and what essentially is equated to individuals sleeping on city property or parks. And so after the meeting, myself and the city attorney here, assistant city attorney, we kind of reviewed these here rules, and it kind of, I failed to remember that, for Starlights, our track meets, our football games, we have individuals that put up tents, which is normal activity that goes in the parks. And so the language that we used was too restrictive, so I didn't move it forward to commission for approval. So I'm bringing it back to you all tonight for some new language that is proposed by our assistant city attorney for your consideration.
Okay, good evening. Again, Patricia Smithfield Joseph, Assistant City Attorney. Okay, so the current language that you all approved at the last meeting when we discussed this item reads, "No person shall erect any structure or accessory structure of any type on any park, park facility, or city beach except pursuant to a city-issued permit or by written authorization of the city commission." Several residents, I believe, contacted Carl or his department and complained that during park events or activities, people tend to want to erect umbrellas, tents, canopies, and so the intent is not to prevent those who want to erect those temporary or personal items. So the following is what I'm proposing as a friendly amendment. And of course, that's for your consideration. You can tweak it, you can add or amend the proposed language. But instead of what we have now, I propose no person shall erect a structure or accessory structure of any type on any park facility, or city beach except for the temporary use of a beach umbrella, tent, or canopy during park hours, and provided all personal property shall be removed from the park facility, or city beach immediately following the end of an event or activity. As you recall, the initial intent of revising this rule was due to some issues that the city has had or continue to have with homelessness. Now, of course, at your discretion, you can choose to offer any additional language to revise this rule.
I just want to verify on the beach, because it's a public beach and open, is there an opening and closing time, technically? And in that regard,
I will defer to Carl on that.
Opening
'cause
ourselves right
I've
back
had
up
multiple
to
discussions with the department.
tents on beaches,
owns the beach,
and
right?
the beach never
So,
closes.
correct. So the beach technically never closes, but the chairs, umbrellas, those go off the beach, I believe, at sunset, which is 5 to 6-ish.
So can we put language in there that those temporary structures must be removed by sunset?
Or they're only allowed dawn to dusk?
Right. Well, sunrise to sunset.
I actually think that addresses what Patricia's language was.
Well, currently,
said during
my
park
language
hours,
reads
open
during
park
park hours,
Right.
but I can also include during.
They have a shade structure at night or a tent
Right.
at night. So if we run
Right.
sunrise to sunset, we accommodate
Mhm.
the need for sun protection, but we
Mhm.
stop erecting temporary structures at
Well,
night.
well, also keep in mind, too, that we do have track meets that go into the night.
Yeah, but you don't need a tent
Yeah.
at night.
I agree, but
There are
I don't
pop-ups
know
that
if you
show up.
want to get into
And
an
it's
enforcement
explicitly
issue.
authorized by the city if it's a track meet.
Right, but I don't know if you want to get into an enforcement with a family that has a group there watching their kids play and they've got coolers and things like that they've erected a tent. To ask them to kind of to take it down after, let's say, 5 o'clock or whatnot, I don't know if you want to put that into play.
Also, may I also suggest that the city beach, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is considered a park.
Yes, it is.
So the park hours would be consistent with the city code. So if the city code indicates that the city beach umbrellas or other types of personal property on the beach must be removed by sunset, then that's considered park hours. We can make it more technical, but I'm afraid of creating any confusion with that.
Yes, and also keep in mind, most of our parks are 6 a.m. to 9 p.m.
So do we just put the hours as 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. on the beach? I mean,
The beach
I'm
is
trying-
open.
Yeah,
I mean, the parking on the beach is what, from till 2 a.m., and that's when the tow trucks used to come out and tow everybody off the beach?
The beach technically closed. Like, you could go out to the, for those individuals, the hotels and the residents on the beach, they could still walk the beach at night.
Right.
So it's not like if you go to Carter Park at, let's say, 11:30, that park is closed.
Right.
Anybody in there, the park ranger would ask them to leave.
But the rule is by 9 o'clock, any erected structure, unless you have a permit, should be taken down.
Isn't the intent to get rid of any overnight?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
There
part
isn't
of
any
what-
language, I think, in there about overnight.
Yeah, so our park rules currently have 4.9 listed, and it kind of speaks to that. But the reason why this came back to the board the previous time was to put stronger language in there to give police and our enforcement officers that ability to kind of take action.
But to be honest, how many of them will like tell somebody at a track meet to take down the tent? Like, couldn't you just kind of tell them, like the park rangers, to kind of like not tell them to take it down?
I hear.
You're just a person at a
Spitballing this, so give me a second. No person shall erect a structure or accessory structure of any type on any, no person shall erect a structure or accessory structure of any type on any park, park facility, or city beach, except for the temporary use of a beach umbrella, tent, or canopy, with the intent of camping during park hours, and then the rest of that. And I say that after looking up, oh wait, where's my definition of camping? Which includes an activity of spending vacation or living time in a camp, tent, camper, other structure.
We need to find a way to address the overnight.
Yeah, I think my concern here is we've made an exception. The except for the temporary use of beach umbrella, tent, or canopy during park hours. And those items would be the things we use on a beach. But the challenge is the beach has no park hours. So we made an exception for indefinite.
So
and
I
that's
looked
the
up
very
camping.
thing we don't want.
Something along the lines with the intent of overnight camping.
Maybe there should be two things, one for just parks and then one for beach. Two separate. They should just be separated because they are very different.
Or should there just be an ordinance that says overnight camping in parks or beaches is prohibited?
But somebody can say they're not camping. They're just sitting, they're just there with their umbrella. I'm not camping. I'm just sitting here. So I don't know. I just can hear it.
There's temporary accommodation as camping. I looked up the definition. Thank you for that, because I was like, oh.
Director Williams, do you have any sense of when police see more activity in removing those who are unhoused?
So on the beach, we've kind of been doing like an ongoing review where police sweeps the beach between the hours of 11 p.m. and I would say mid to late morning, which is somewhere around like 4 a.m., 5 a.m. And there have been several instances where individuals have kind of erected like a little personal domicile, if you will. So they've been actively addressing that, but I mean, having this language just gives them stronger teeth when they start their enforcement.
I have a question. If we do this and like they take out like the camps or whatever, but will they still come back and still sit there and find something else? Like my concern is that we're hitting like one thing and then they'll move to something else, like then they'll just sit there and with a chair or something. I'm making that up, but.
So for the purposes of the beach, no, that won't happen, because anytime there's somebody there with any kind of personal belongings at that time period, they will be approached by police and kind of shoot on or so.
I'm in favor of the new language if we can figure out a way to incorporate camping or overnight, or separating the two sentences to make it clear there's the beach and the park, although it has been made clear that beaches are parks.
So just to follow that, I think we can add 4.13 section, because we're trying to squeeze a lot under 4.9, the personal property. And I think we just our own enemy right now. So I know we don't have that section, but that's what I'm proposing, to add 4.13 at the end, when we can put overnight camping section, and we can put that language that it's prohibited at the beach, at the parks, and everywhere. Because right now I think we're trying to squeeze too much under 4.9 together. Camping and personal property and some.
Yeah, so 4.9, we're saying keep the language that we have now,
Correct.
But then on 4.13 add in
Keep
what
the
you are
proposed
proposing.
language, the proposal, temporary use.
Got it.
And then we can put maybe overnight camping, and then we can put the overnight camping is prohibited at the.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, 4.9 stays the same, and then you all are going to propose language for 4.13.
Yes, with the assistance of legal.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand it as well. So 4.9, so delete that red language in there that you have there now?
Correct, and add the proposed language that's on the printout. So I jump in if I got this wrong. I'm proposing that we go with the proposed language of temporary use, and then in addition.
I'm sorry, on 4.9?
On 4.9.
Okay.
On 4.9, go with the proposed temporary use language that you provided us today.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think what I heard my colleague say is on 4.13, then make that a descriptor that includes beach, overnight camping, prohibition.
Okay.
We just need to be clear that language, especially with when you're trying to, someone's like, oh, I'm not camping. We got to it has to be very broad. Very
correct.
broad.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when we're trying to enforce rules. So sometimes even camping, I don't know.
What about
Yeah, I'm
that's why
I'm thinking about the camping
the enforcement language as
well.
is yes, you can't, it has to be very, that's why this is really good because it's broad. And if someone's saying, hey, look, there's 4.9, if we get more into specific wording, that's where people are going to be like fighting. That's those certain words.
I know my staff members here, my team is probably not going to like my recommendation, but I tend to agree with the gentleman. I think we need some time to, if we're going to create 4.13 relating specifically to beaches, we may need to take some time so that I can work on some proposed language, bring it back to you guys. I'll do the redlining right in the code itself. Again, my apologies, I was on vacation. And then you all could visualize and see the different rules, either 4.9 with the new language that I propose. I'll insert that in there with your revisions, with the board members' revisions, and then I can propose the 4.13 specifically relating to beaches.
Or camping, yeah, excellent.
Or include,
beaches, camping overnight.
Camping or some other
Or sleeping,
or
camping or sleeping.
or general
Overnight in
language
parks or beaches,
that
strictly prohibited.
you can consider, because if it's half-baked, it may not be as effective or able to be enforced by the police as we want it to be. So we may not want to rush this too much because I'm a little concerned as to some of the issues that are coming up. I'd rather have an opportunity to bring you some language that I think may be effective. Would that work?
Agreed.
Agreed.
That'd be
Thank
great. Can we also submit some proposals to you?
Absolutely.
Also? Okay,
Absolutely.
great.
Yes.
Isn't it state law now? Didn't
It will be in
Governor
October.
DeSantis make a law that says there's just no overnight sleeping or camping in parks and public places?
Yes, which is why it's important for me to consider the language in concert with some of the new law that's been offered and approved by the government.
Forgive my ignorance, but can we just say loitering? For further discussion, for later discussion, is
Say that again?
loitering, can you loiter on a beach? Like, can you apply that?
And then I have to scan the code. I think we have some language in the code,
Yeah.
some existing language in the code. Now, recognize these are the park rules. We may already have some ordinance that address loitering on the beach or city park. Again, those are considerations for both the parks team and myself.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry, guys.
No, it's okay. Thank you. That's good.
I know. I feel bad.
Thank you.
Solomon's going to make your job easy. He'll send you what you need to write.
Measure twice, cut once.
Do we need to address along with the panhandling at the beach and things like that at the same time in that same ordinance?
I'm sorry.
I just wondered if, does the governor's thing all pertain? Didn't the city pass something about the panhandling at the street corners, and didn't the city have something they just passed?
There's a few issues, and there was also a major lawsuit. So we have to look at a few things. So I'd rather do some research first before I guide you guys any further. That would be prudent.
Yeah, you got 2 months.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so that kind of pushes agenda item 4. Number 5, any new business?
New business. Question, Director Williams. Do you know how much the Grove paid for the flag that's on the beach property near Sunrise and A1A, and if there are other vendors who are able to also advertise? So there's a promotional flag, like one of those nice pretty flags that's promoting the Grove, which is at Hugh Taylor Birch.
I drive it all the time. I haven't noticed.
Yeah, it's the flag right there. So it's like a decorative flag that says like, hey, come eat, drink at the Grove. And I was just wondering if that's like another source of income for us and what the process is for.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm sorry.
Okay, but it's on beach property. It's
Okay.
actually at, I think it's near Lifeguard Station number 14.
First State Park, right?
Right across from State Park. When you know where our tunnel, so the tunnel that used to go from Taylor Birch to the beach, it's right there when you would exit the tunnel on the beach side. And I don't recall seeing that when it was the other vendor. So I was just curious if that's a new funding source or what the petition would be like to actually.
So if it was, it wouldn't involve our department. If that's something that's done through the Birch or possibly another city department, depending on how that worked out. But I can look into it to see what it is, because
Okay.
I'm not familiar with it.
Okay. And then my other new business was on Sunday when we were at the beach, there was a lot of trash. And so I know we have the big trash cans on the sidewalk. I don't know if it's possible to, in certain areas where you have high population, get another trash can that's on the beach side. In Miami, they have it. Because I think if people see that there's a trash can closer to that entrance walkway, they may be more inclined to pick it up. I took pictures and then picked it up with my bag, but it was not pleasant.
And this is North Beach, South Beach?
Yeah, North Beach. So Sunrise and A1A.
Okay.
Now everybody knows where I go to the beach.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I have new business. I was just wondering, I'm seeing more and more people selling things in the beach parking lot. Is that something that we permit, or they're just till the police tell them to leave?
Yeah, that's a police kind of matter.
Okay.
There should not be any selling on the beach outside of, of course, your jet skis that have a permit. We've got the Boucher brothers with the clamshells and the umbrellas. But when you say in the parking lot, I imagine that is unauthorized.
Yeah, I mean, they're just selling coconut drinks out of their truck, and there was a weed truck. There was somebody like selling.
Weed truck?
Yeah, they were like a food truck, looked like a food truck, but it was something green, and it's it was kind of like looked like it was weed or something that they were.
Okay.
CBD
I'll make
things.
police aware.
And they just like pulled up in the lot, and then they're selling for a while. And
Carla had something, it was brought to my attention that the city commission kind of rejected the dog parks allowance in all parks and was maybe wanting us to come up with something regarding specific parks or cherry picking parks to which parks would be allowed and which wouldn't. I know we discussed that kind of as a board beforehand, and it was my understanding that we were allowing all parks and desiring it. And I don't know if there's a way we could just generate a communication back to the commission that the board voted unanimously for all parks.
So to answer your question, the direction that commission provided was for to go back to the board and have the board reach out to the community to identify specific parks, because commission at the time advised that opening up all parks is just too extreme all at once. And so the direction was to have you all do some outreach and come up with parks in each district that would make sense for dog parks to have leashed dogs.
Not actual dog parks, but dogs on leash parks.
Correct.
Okay.
Can I just say, because you know, Carl, I was at those meetings, that I actually said, and went up to the microphone and said lots of things. But the one thing I said was they're taking something right now that we propose that is simple and easy, and they're going to make it hard and confusing. I mean, some of them are talking about 3 different tier kind of parks, et cetera, and I'm kind of a believer in you do it, and then when there's problems, that's where maybe you tweak it or you make some rules, not make 50 rules before you even do anything. Having said that, I was a teenager in the 60s and 70s. I lived through the 80s where there are a lot less rules. Rules sometimes can just make something so confusing, I just felt like going, forget about it. So I'm not crazy about a lot of extra rules. Either dogs are allowed in the parks or they're not. And if there's a park that just doesn't lend itself to dogs, the way we've written the proposal, I should say, then they can work with their commissioner, and the commissioner can come with us and say, this park is too small for children and dogs, or I don't know what, whatever reason there could be. There could be reasons that I don't know. But I think to go out to every district and say, what parks in your district lend themselves to having dogs on leashes and what don't, and then we bring that back, do you think anybody's going to follow that? People are going to either walk their dogs in a park or they're not. And right now they are, and there are no rules. At least we're trying to put some rules in place. So that's just my feeling. You guys may all feel real different, but I think it's going to be so confusing, it's going to be more ineffective than, it's better to just say, forget about it, and let it just be as it is now, honestly, in my opinion, because nobody's going to know what's going on. And I think Commissioner Beasley said this, or Pittman Beasley, she said that. She goes, it'll be confusing. How somebody can know they can't walk a dog in my district, but then they can't, in another, so.
Yeah, and to that point, there was discussion to kind of have like a dog-friendly signage, placed. And we could come up with some creative things as a department to kind of outline what that looks like. But just based on the direction from commission, we're essentially looking at what parks make sense to include dogs in those parks under a 6-foot leash max.
It's just like a phasing in kind of a thing? So is that really what they're looking for, to phase it all in, not to just have a carte blanche kind of a thing?
The overarching issue is enforcement. We have 12 park rangers for over 110 parks. There's no way for us to feasibly manage that. And so, to Mary's point, our offices are at Southside Cultural Arts Center, and that abuts Hardy Park. And if you leave any time after 6 o'clock, sometimes during the day, and if you come there at between 6 and 7 in the morning, you'll see people there with dogs. And that's kind of consistent with a lot of our parks. But to Commissioner Herbst's point, he was shooed away when he was at, I think it was Holiday Park he referenced, and he's like, his dog I think was 75 pounds, so just imagine him carrying a 75-pound dog. So I think the idea is to identify what parks in each district should have leash dogs, and over, I guess, every year or however the various communities, determine it, they'll come back and say, hey, we want to open up another park, or maybe this park doesn't work, or so forth and so on. And so that's the direction from commission, and that's where we are. So in our August meeting, this will be a specific agenda item for, discussion after your thoughts for this 2-month period to let us know.
Can I ask you guys a question? Is the history on this that Parks and Rec had approved dogs in all parks prior?
A million years ago, you could walk your dog in any park. There was no rule against it.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you when that changed. I don't
Yeah. So this issue has not come before the Parks, Rec, and Beach Board previously.
Yeah, we just,
That's what I mean to ask.
right, yeah, we just approved something to allow dogs on the 6-foot leash in all parks.
In all parks. Yeah.
Yes,
That's
so-
that's the language in there.
So, Solomon, to answer your question, so the board voted unanimously to approve all parks to be on a 6-foot maximum leash in all of our parks. When this item came forward, there was concern about opening up all of our parks to going from 5 parks to 110 parks all at once. And so because we have a limited resources as far as enforcement, Commission didn't feel that that was an appropriate action to take. So their direction to me was to get back with the Parks Board and identify select parks in each district that can be leashed parks.
Was it that explicit that they were asking to come up with parks that would be leash parks, or was it, it's clearly not palpable to be all one way or all the other way, so find a middle ground?
That's my understanding. Mary, you understood that from them too, yes?
Because I watched the commission meeting,
Yeah, yes.
and it seemed like they wanted to punt it back to us to come up with a policy, like a middle ground policy.
I think so. I know I'm on camera and this is recorded, but I think we also have to remember that there's an election coming up, and it may be a very different thing after the election, and not because things are going to change, but they're not going to be so worried about how it's going to affect their run for office.
But also, if we come up with different parks, right now it's 5, that's easy to remember. If we come up, that's confusing for your team as well. I mean, they're gonna have to have like a list in their vehicles or something. I agree with Mary. I think it should just.
Yeah, we'd have to have a QR code at the park to find out if your park's approved or not.
Yeah.
I think it should be a simple rule, and if you want to have like exceptions to the rule, okay, but they have to be properly noticed. Like,
And we did that.
if you want to prevent a park or two from being dog friendly, then have notice there. Hey, no dogs allowed in this park or something.
Oh, I like the reverse instead of counting 5.
Well, I think that's still in line with their premise. So, and just kind of thinking, since we're in District 3 right now, you got Mills Park, Bass Park, Oswald Park, in relative close proximity. And so and for that matter, because they're all kind of right here. So if the thought process based on how I understand our commission is, maybe it doesn't make sense to say, okay, we'll allow these 2 parks in this district or this or so forth and so on, but you all can do, provide your recommendation on maybe we just say these parks are not, suitable for leash dogs. And that could be your recommendation, and, I'll share that with the commission, and then we'll let that conversation go as it may. But
I know that, but I think it's unfair for us to figure out of 110 parks. Now, obviously, some are eliminated, like the aquatic park or center is eliminated. I mean, there are things like that, but I think it's unreasonable to ask the Parks Board to come up with which parks are and which parks are not dogs on leashes friendly. I think it's up to those neighborhoods to come and say, tell them there shouldn't be, or our neighbors, all of them hate dogs, don't let them in our park. Nobody's going to do that. But well, that's me. I think you guys can think about it over the break, but I think.
Well, I think we already did that because we eliminated the sports activity parks. So I believe we excluded them. Aquatic, the beach was only within the designated area. So I think they need to understand that it's not like everywhere. We did consider where the children are playing sports, and we did consider the parks, the beach, especially when it's designated for dogs only. So we did that work. So maybe that some communication needs to be brought back. And I do agree that it's impossible how we're going to do the ratio, how many dogs is in this community, and we're going to do the ratio, how many kids do you have? And if we have more dogs, maybe we need to designate this park, but another community has only, 100 dogs compared to no kids. Or that's just impossible. I think it's and it's going to be a lot of confusion, but there need to be more education that we did that work, and we excluded specific areas when the children are playing, or the beach is designated only for the dogs. So it's not like really everywhere, right? Like we have some exemptions already.
Right, but commission's referring, so you're talking about the eliminations of specific components within the park. Commission is saying the park in its totality.
Well, it seems to me like, and tell me if I'm wrong, guys, but like, it seems like we're all in favor of having dogs in the parks as a general rule, but, and me personally, I've spoken to a lot of people about this. This is obviously a hot topic in the city right now, that there are certain parks that people feel, hey, we don't want dogs in this park because it's too small and there's kids everywhere, and there's going to be issues with feces and whatnot. So would it be reasonable for us to say, hey, we're for dogs in the park, but here's a list of parks where we don't think it would be acceptable? Do we think as a board that would be a reasonable accommodation to make for the commission, so that we can give them that, like, hey, this is what we think would be a reasonable policy?
Well,
that's what they're asking.
Who's going to go to all 110 parks?
I mean, I'll go to as many as I possibly can.
I know, but really, listen, I got plans. I don't want to do that.
Right, but I think, if I may, but I think the premise is to start those conversations with the homeowners association groups. Those are the ones that are...
To have a dog park in your area, please, that are in those different neighborhoods. Because, like, I know what parks are near me and what might work or not work, but I don't have any idea in District 3.
So let me just say that it was discussed at the council. I can do it again, and there were probably about 30 civic association presidents or representatives, maybe a little bit more, maybe more like 35. And there was only one person. I mean, everybody's like, oh, cool, I walk my dog in the park anyway, but there was one person that said, there's a park in somewhere over in Harbor Beach that it just doesn't lend itself to that. It's full of playground equipment and then one small grassy area. And I go, well, what about if you could just take it to your commissioner and you propose that, this particular park, could we opt out? It was really an opt out. And so how would that work? So let me see if I can come up with some language just so people can opt out. I'd rather they do that.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
So anyway,
I spoke about this issue with the Rio Vista Civic Association. I'm a board member there, and obviously that is not representative of how all the other associations are going to feel. But what the answer I got was, we really don't want to get involved with this, but this is a hot issue. And the civic associations don't want to say yes or no, or have to actually go through the motions to come up with a policy, because there's going to be plenty of unhappy people no matter what, no matter which way they go.
There are already, I think, 8, I don't know if you've seen them, about 8, I've seen 8 different civic associations that's just on their own, without really any prompting, have come back and said they want dogs in their leash dogs, at the rules as we propose them, let me put it that way. They were all for it. Now that's, they're bored, and you're right, but there might be some neighborhoods that, I don't know, that just, for whatever reason, doesn't lend itself
well,
to it.
Would it be a good sort of compromise? It wasn't from the RVCA.
Oh, yes, I know.
Yeah.
All right. Can we get a list of all the parks so we can...
Yeah, we can communicate that to you.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Did you guys have anything else? I'm sorry. I just had a couple of things.
No, I just have...
So I just have a couple of things. So, Chair, you 6 people in attendance today in support of Bal Harbour Plat. 56, I'm sorry. And then next month is Parks and Rec Month. So the month of July is Parks and Rec Month. We do have a proclamation that will be on the July 2nd commission meeting. And our chair will be receiving the proclamation on your behalf. So I just wanted to thank you all for your service, and happy Parks and Rec Month to all of us. And so I know we discussed 4.9 and tabling it. If you guys do have what we currently propose, if you want to add some additional language, please send that over to Leanna. She will be your direct communication to get into Carl and Patricia and I. And as Carl said, there's no meeting next month. The next month, the August meeting will be back here because the item of dog parks. And once we put that agenda out, you know that a lot of these associations that you guys are talking about are going to come here. We've already gotten requests from associations to present to you all. And of course, they're allowed to present. So maybe you guys come craft something up of what that limit looks like, if it's 3 minutes, 5 minutes for a presentation, because there will be a lot of people here in August. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Any other items, new business? Going once, going twice?
I make a motion, we adjourn the meeting. Yeah.
I've seen worse, but I don't
Yeah.
like it.
Yeah,